Bada bing.
And just get it going, just like that.
Just get it going. Welcome, 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 welcome. 2025. We are here. And the real is excited about what we are going to bring to our can we call them our guests, our family, our village this year. But as true to who we are, I'm gonna say it one more time. We have a conversation that needs to be had, and we're just gonna get into it. So you don't know this, but we have a little pre-record before the record, and the topic just happened to come up about the status of Tennessee State. And as you all know, Tyann here is a mama of a current Tennessee State student, and of course, as you also know, Tyann has something to say. So, as she's called herself FBI Ty, welcome to the real world, everybody. Mia Ferguson. I got my brother here, Andy Brown, and of course, our blonde bombshell, Tyann Anderson, here to discuss with you, I should say, all things the real when it comes to enlightening our parents and our students going through this college experience. So, Tyann, FBI Ty, can we start from the top with Tennessee? FBI Ty.
So, or like for sure, FB Ty.
FB Ty. I like it even better. FB Ty. That's it. So, Tyann, go ahead. And then the question that we're going to ask everybody is, where does Tyann, what newsletter? I just want her to give us, we need to have one episode where Tyann just gives us a scoop on HBC. Because none of these newsletters that I go through for the HBCUs gives us what FB Ty gives us. Tyann, come on.
If you know, hit us in the DM so we can find out.
Please.
And I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna really say this. I'm gonna tell you why I can get the information, because I'm close to the people. And you know how I feel about propaganda. So I'm gonna go straight to hear it out of somebody's mouth before I scroll through and read all of these darn reports that's coming through on social media, or read through all of these articles from clickbait and all of that. Like, literally, I'm gonna go ask the question.
She's like the scoop. She's the scoop. Okay.
I'm going to literally sit down, and because you said it, I have a baby tiger. I have a tiger cub here.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look him dead in his face. I got to make sure that he has everything that he needs to be able to navigate and get through this we only got 3 semesters left, y'all. 3. And really, that's what set off the alarm for me. 3 semesters, because it's not just him graduating at this point. It's like this crisis comes right in the midst of him being able to embark on his true adult life and making sure that his return on investment is on par, which means his degree got to mean something and work for him when he gets it. So all of a sudden now, here we go with this crisis that started at the end of his sophomore year because one, nobody still wants to really challenge the elephant in the room, which is, why is Tennessee State and all of these other HBCUs, why are they underfunded? Including the ones, and it shouldn't even be a question for those that are land grant institutions. Y'all money has been guaranteed since the 1800s. So let's get into it. So meanwhile, Mia, you asked me the question. You said, why did no one do the math for these scholarships that we're using to entice students to come in and boost enrollment?
But take it back, Tyann. Take it back to what you said, the reason why. So they got the money from Corona. They got the money from Corona, and then they had enrollment was increased because they offered scholarships. But no genius that sat at the table said, take how many scholarships we're offering and multiply by 4, because the baby's got to go to school for at least 4 years. No one said that.
Like I said, let's break the math down further than that. So yes, so there were funds that came in from the federal government for COVID relief.
Okay.
Towards the school. All right, so that's a pocket of money. Yeah, it's a pocket of money. Yes, but strategically, if your strategic plan was to use this money to offset enrollment, which is something totally different. Because again, you also have to look at what that money was earmarked for and what was supposed to be used for. In order to, make sure you're in good standing to ever get it again, you got to use it right. If you're gonna play the game, you got to know the rules before you break the rules. Right. So they use that money to come in, offer scholarships, and those scholarships, yes, they did what they were supposed to do. They boosted enrollment. But how long was that money? There's the end of the month, and then there's the end of the money.
Point.
So you get record, you get record enrollment. These students come in, they spike things that first year. But did you also look at the economic contributions of those students back to the university? So this is where I know, Mia, you get on me a lot of the times, but this is where us as responsible parents, when we're starting to have children, whether or not they want to go to college or not, still tuck a little bit of money away just so that they can have a good start in whatever they do. But that's where the parental contributions come in. Planning. That's where other outside scholarships come in. Don't just think because somebody has dangled a carrot in front of you. What do you do when the carrot is gone? What do you do when you're gonna got to the green top? So literally,
when you actually get the carrot.
Did you read the fine? Did you read the fine print when these schools offered you that money anyway? So there's a big difference in offering a scholarship, a merit-based scholarship, and a specific monetary amount that you're being offered in your scholarship. So if you won an $80,000 scholarship, did you calculate how much you're going to need to graduate? Because $80,000 will take you
partially.
Maybe 2 years.
Or is this a full guaranteed scholarship, tuition fees, room and board for your tenure and matriculation through that school? There's the difference there. So now all of the students that are like, oh, wait a minute. TSU, you don't have the money to give me for the next year? Well, hell, I can't come back. What does that do? Sharp decline in enrollment. Now, mind you, how is the university's budget defined? It's defined by so many other factors, but it's that what you gonna bring in per head. So now the influx that you had, which also caused all of the housing problems, is now sharply and dramatically dropped. So now you're relying on the students who actually were not scholarship recipients, who are recipients of still financial aid. And then here we go, we get hit with the whole FAFSA debacle last year. So all of these issues are compounding on top of each other. So then it comes to a head in April, where the state of Tennessee was like, well, we feel like y'all just mismanaged the money as a whole. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to fire your entire board. We're going to figure out a way to oust your current president. And we're going to appoint a new board. So also another thing that they did with ousting a new president, because again, this is unwarranted. This woman has a contract. Either y'all have to buy her out of her contract, or because she's been vested in the state of Tennessee, y'all got to still make sure that she is okay. So what y'all did was force her into an early retirement,
which comes with a cost.
But
then, if they can't multiply, they didn't add that in. So they didn't factor that in. If no one can multiply by 4, no one added that into the whole equation.
But wait a minute. And I got to get Glenda. I have to give Glenda the good witch her props on this one. She said, okay, and y'all got to pay me to consult to get the next administration on board, and that's a part of my retirement package.
Because you can't just listen, she was smart enough to know that when a new person comes in, generally there is someone doing what?
There's a transition.
Being the liaison to transition them into their role. And if no one at the university had her level of experience in that space, who else can do it? or it's the first 6 months, they want to be trying to figure out who's on first, second, and third. So you had to have somebody. If they do it with the president of the United States, no matter how they really felt about each other, they got to do it in these spaces.
They got to do a transition. So here it is. And so now that has come out. So what they're trying to do is pull all of this information out in the stratosphere to make Tennessee State seem, incapable, in which they're not. So literally, what happened? Tennessee State has been in survival mode for years because why? What's the root cause of all of this?
The state funding.
Just bad accounting.
Been underfunded.
Right.
So now, again, we're on our second interim president. And now did he even have a proper transition? Because dude right before him said,
couldn't do it. He couldn't do it.
He resigned. When you resign nowadays, it's so funny because I do have friends in HR, and even my friends in HR are like, we don't give 2-week notices anymore.
You're just out. You're done.
I'm out.
I'm gone.
I collect 200.
Even the impact that he was able to make, or whatever he did in the new rules, and some of the new rules affected me because I had to do a side eye when right after registration they're demanding tuition be paid in full right then and there, and I'm like, wait a minute, didn't y'all just realize we had a whole debacle with the FAFSA and these kids actually didn't even get their awards till July? Like, I need you to understand what's going on out here in this whole stratosphere, because again, you've got an institution that is highly dependent upon
the federal dollar. Right. So
Again,
let's go back to what the new interim said about his strategic plan to not get the funding that he's owed. Because that I wouldn't have walked in with. If that was my plan, I'm gonna be honest, I wouldn't have said it out loud. I would have said it so charismatically. He said it out loud. Wow.
He said it out loud in front of I couldn't assess the audience because we were all online, but I know the audience that was within my household was a current student, and I guess I'm 4 people. I'm an HBCU advocate. I'm a mom to a college student. I have a vested interest in your university, and the fact of the matter that I want the university to succeed. So I got 4 positions in there to 1. Now, mind you, I know that there were other faculty and staff, and this was the first time that they probably would have met him throughout that time. But also remember, my child was home. So this was happening during the Christmas break. So whomever was able to tune in.
When most parents weren't paying attention.
Yeah, that part.
So this man was able to kind of introduce himself and introduce his plan online and say, okay, we understand what the situation is, what the dire situation is, but at this point in time, strategically and financially, it doesn't make sense to go ahead and pursue. And I'm paraphrasing, and I don't want to misquote this man, but this is literally how it came off to me. I don't want to pursue that other money right now because it's going to take too much time. It's really not worth it. But I'm going to give a call to our alumni here. And of course, because I wasn't in the room, he couldn't see that I am a very active alum. Even though I'm not a Tennessee State alum, I am an active HBCU alum in my own chapters. And we're going to call this I don't know if it's a new campaign, it's a fundraising campaign or whatever, but we're going to shift a lot of responsibility to the alumni to raise the money that we need to fill in these gaps. Okay, that's fine, because historically we have had a problem with being able to give back to our own HBCU institutions. There is a giving gap there in comparison to a lot of PWIs, a lot of other private institutions. But that is not the whole solve to the problem. It can be a combination of both. But I need you to pull up them pants all the way up under here. I need you to march up to that state capitol and say, I am invested in trying to figure out
how to get this money.
In the term of Riley with Santa, how you pay what you owe. Pay what you owe, Santa.
I mean, no one gets to tell the state what they're not going to pay. So why does the state get to say what they're not going to pay? But I want to say this, and I wrote this down. I want every university to remove the word interim from every document. I want them to burn everything. You know why? Because in my theory, the interims are what gets us here.
What about
you
adjunct?
Have people, say it again. Interim, adjunct's a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, adjunct's a little different.
But interim, for me specifically, when you talk about people in these spaces like these presidents, these vice presidents, these department heads, you come in and the word says you're not going to be there for long. The word, unfortunately, also looks like you don't know what you're doing because we're hiring people just to fill a position. And I've been probably preaching about this for the last 7-8 years. You go through most of these schools and you see that word interim so much, you're trying to figure out who is here qualified to run this situation.
In my industry, that's akin to freelancer.
Yeah. And in 2025, it means a gig. It's gig work at this point.
Yeah. Find it Upwork.
It's for, yeah. So it's kind of like I need them to stop doing that because of course, that's his mentality, because to fix that problems mean you're going to be around for a long time or for at least a little while. You're going to have what you say, Tyon, you're going to have a stake in the game, right? But when you have interim, of course, you can say something like that because I'm going to create this situation and I can get up and walk away whenever I feel like it. And then y'all figure this out.
No level of accountability.
It's no level of accountability.
Just like the previous interim. I mean, unless, I've always been an advocate of my own professional integrity. I don't know if everyone works on that same type of level, but for somebody to literally just say, I'm done and I'm done with it. Well, when it comes down to your resume in the next position you're looking for and they ask you, why did you abruptly leave? You're going to have to be able to justify that, or you're going to have to be able to explain it. So there's one. And like I said, so we had new interim and now we got new. So again, to your point, what is your commitment? And in this instance, he's an alumni. So maybe just having the term alumni, is a good word to say what my possible commitment might be. But we know people, we know everybody always has ulterior motives and things like that. But is that really a strategic solve? And then to your point, Mia, because there was no time to find someone qualified, we had to hurry up and find somebody to fix this mess right then and right now because they were not prepared. So my question is, because when I go back to the experience that I had working at the illustrious National Treasure, everybody pretty much on what would be equivalent to a C-suite there, they knew how to step in. Though there were particular positions that you knew could ladder up into the presidency. So the interim, you didn't have to go find anybody else. The interim was the VP of whichever department office or department led directly and reported directly into the president. So there was somebody who was trying to know what it is that was going on. Mm-hmm. And then you also have a board of regents who, if they're still paying attention and doing their job, and looking over financials and looking over the just cause and the business case for the school, the board should be able to come in and figure out how or who that interim person is that needs to just be the face and the voice, but all of the business to make, or all I'm not gonna say I keep saying being done because again, education is not necessarily a business, but I feel like there's commerce going on.
But it is a business
related to those terms. So
it's a $1 billion business. Let's be clear.
So you got a whole board who's supposed to be starting to come in and make decisions based upon their respective areas of expertise. So again, remember, let's take this back to April when the entire board was wiped out by the House. So again,
Houseway. How? I'm still trying to figure out how did we let somebody come into our house?
No.
Y'all don't pay no rent here. Y'all don't pay. Y'all ain't buying no food here. Y'all ain't driving up and supporting anybody here, and you got to just walk on up.
How does this normally work in those
action
situations?
alone should say, if you were diabolical enough to come in here and change our board, go on in there and write that check. And pass them digits, pass them numbers right on over here.
And not only that, I want to make one other point, because right before the first interim president departed, there was a meeting in front of the House when they had to go ask for the emergency funds, and the Speaker of the House said, "Well, there is real estate owned by Tennessee State University that could bring in a sizable amount of money. So have you considered that?" Boop, boop, boop. So fast forward to new president. When he was addressing that, he was like, yes, there are certain aspects that don't you even open your mouth to talk about selling grandma's house. We are not selling grandma's house, because if you look at the whole,
that's the play.
That's the play.
Like a whole different version of disappearing.
That's the play. Give us your land, Black folks. Give us your land that you toiled over.
In Nashville is at a premium now. Now, mind you, they came in and gentrified the area all around the campus. They did everything that's around the campus. Now they want to come in on the campus. It's a thing to see. And they have a specific campus downtown. Come on, that downtown real estate. So you would even come out your mouth, Mr. House, and said, we want y'all land. And not only that, let's look at it in terms of the whole university system. Well, we can come up with a plan. Well, why don't y'all just fold up under the whole, University of Tennessee system? Ain't that the same thing that they tried to do to us in Maryland?
Yep, they did. And Morgan was the only one that didn't fold.
Morgan was the only one that did not
and
fold.
It was the best decision. It was the best decision that any leadership position at this school at the time could have made. They didn't fold.
And when it came down to us finally settling, Morgan got their money.
Yes, they
along
did.
With Bowie, along with UMES.
Okay.
And UMES has a lot of land. A lot.
And mind you, the name is UMES. So it's still under that system. So, I mean, gladly, the powers that be were able to kind of just leave that alone a little bit. But I'm saying all of this to say that we have to look beyond, and we need representation that is going to have our best interest at heart. We need those that are going to fight for us. I said in our episode in April, right after that whole town hall, I said, where are our civil rights leaders?
Where are our lobbyists? Where are our legal minds? We have a ton of them. We have a ton of them. We have a ton of people who are judges and lawyers. Where are our legal minds? It doesn't cost an alumni dollar to rally up and have a conversation, look at the status just from a legal perspective, put together something, and then hold a representative, a council, somebody responsible for standing up for us. Because 9 times out of 10, if they're Black and they're in that city, 9 times out of 10, I'll bet you money they went to a HBCU.
And now let's not talk about, think about it. All of the HBCUs, and again, Mia, you and I are Morgan, but Andy, with Grambling, think about how much these HBCU college towns actually bring into the city. I sit in on those conversations when I go to these National Alumni Association meetings, and I see the breakdown of how much Morgan State University brings not only to the city of Baltimore, and the young mayor has already praised us on that. Like literally how much commerce that Morgan State University brings to the city of Baltimore. But not only that, our contributions to the state and our neighboring states. So even for a Tennessee State University, those students that are going back to Memphis, those students that still remain in Nashville, those students that are going to Knoxville, literally, they've prepared themselves, they've educated themselves to come out at a higher, income bracket that is actually helping to pay the taxes there.
Right.
And then remember, in this whole educational system, especially with state schools, the incentive as to the reason why there's a difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition is because the states want to incentivize their own residents to stay in that state to contribute to their economy.
Yeah.
So again, recognize that, and recognize that these HBCUs are the reasons why any of us go to college or have the opportunity to go.
Yeah. I think that this Tennessee situation, it's being highlighted right now, Tennessee, but there's other schools who are going through this same thing. And when it comes down to it, I mean, I remember being in school and it was something going down with, I think people in-house were not fiscally responsible with funding coming from the government for like financial aid. It was a big thing. They were taking refunds, doing a whole bunch of fraudulent things. So I'm not negating the responsibility and where it lies on the school for some things. So when we're saying things like, mismanagement of funds, yeah, it sounds good because it has been a case in a lot of places, a lot of universities, right? But I'm gonna take it back to that whole intern world. When you got people who figure out they got a way to be slick, and it's because they don't have the best interest of that business, that school at heart. These things happen. And so I think instead of having an interim, take the time. Dr. Wilson said something very powerful. He said, I took the time and I was on my time, no one else's, to find the person to come in to lead, to hold up the Department of Institutional Advancement. It took some time to hire that person. He said, but I wanted to make sure I got it right. If you don't have it, there should be somebody, to Tyan's point, that can hold up those realms, those rings, until we can find the right person who is dedicated to the cause, who has the knowledge that it needs to take us from one space to another. But to do these types of things, it only makes the school weaker, right? Because what's going to happen? Dismemberment is going to happen. It's not. This is not the solution. This is not the solution.
And remember this, just as, like I said, I keep taking this back to corporate, but anytime that there's a new administration, I mean, this applies in, the private sector and the public sector, they're going to bring their people.
Yep.
They're going to bring their people. But what a good person does, even if you are their people, you kind of come in and you learn your environment. You learn your new environment. So you can tell right off from jump who's actually interested in the position, who's vested. And that's what we're missing now in these newer times. I know that we've kind of gone back and forth a lot about, whether or not the commitment to education is there. And we've gone back and forth about literally how education is really not as desirable because we've wised up a little bit and we've stepped away from passion projects and everybody wants that almighty dollar. But they're still good people. And it's trying to find those who are committed to their own advancement, but also committed to your advancement as well.
So I'm going to bring something to our table, and we all three, it's just so interesting that this is where we are. Annie, and I'm going to let you hit off on this one. Over the last 3 months, each of us has stepped into another realm in our professional career. Right? Andy, it started with you. Tyan was right in the rear. I brought it up on the end. And because of who I know we are as individuals, professionals, we don't step into anything. I don't care. My daddy used to say, I don't care if you're the garbage man collecting the trash. We don't step into anything without giving it our all. And so Tyan was like, listen, y'all, I got to dig in 10 toes down, figure this thing out. Andy was like, listen, I have meetings. I'm trying to develop so I can make sure that I understand logistically, because it's in logistics, where this business is, so I can do what I have to do. Me, Tyan said, it's an employer. I was like, yeah, it sounds good, but I'm approaching it like it's the client because I see what the picture is and I know what my role is and what I have to do. And so I have to go in and assess
Mm-hmm.
I have to assess, right? I have to go in and talk to and get my fingers into the dirt, the muck of what's going on, so I can really figure out how to fix it. So, speaking from a professional space, using the Tennessee situation, do you think, Andy, that just off of what we've heard from FB Tie, what we talked about back in April when this thing happened, do you think that this approach with a lot of our schools use, what would have been your approach? Let me say it that way.
Sure.
You get into a situation like this, yeah. What would have been your approach?
The main thing is I would have to make sure that the person that I'm bringing in is going to be there for the long haul.
Right.
And it's not fair to my organization. It's not fair to my team. It's not fair to my university to just have a filler.
Right.
That's just like putting some caulk in the middle of the wood just to hold it down for just a moment, because we're building a legacy here. We're finding the growth in what we've done. We want to continue that and not just fill parts. And it's not fair to an individual. It's not fair to a team. So if you're going to interim somebody in here, get the right person and trust that, hey, you have this responsibility and I'm passing that on to you as of now. Everything else you've been doing up to this point should have you in the mindset of fresh eyes, fresh ears, and a fresh new observation, because you're closer to the team that's been in the playing field of this.
Right.
So you've already worked with them in some kind of way.
And I think, and I don't want to be wrong on this, but I think, and that's going to caveat the hell out of that, I think that this interim or this new is not taking a salary, which again makes things attractive. It makes things attractive.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
No. And I'm gonna tell you why it makes things attractive. It makes things attractive to a payroll that doesn't need to be met.
Now, why are you here?
But that's the point I was gonna make, Andy. So again, and that could show his commitment to it, but are you still qualified? I understand the gesture.
If you got the position,
would your position be better served? This is where I'm going with this. Would your position have been better served on the board if the House hadn't come in and taken over?
So Tyon, you just rolled into, so that's your answer basically, because you gave it in the beginning before we had a little bit more context, but your approach would have been like, okay, dude, you would have been better on the board. You have relationships that you could help support, from so many different ways you can be creative with getting funding nowadays, especially. But that makes me put my finger up, Alderman Davis' finger up, and say,
what you doing?
What you doing?
And who are you and why are you here for
free? Did they just pull his name out of an alumni hat?
Did he just step up and say, I'll do it? And because we're desperate, because remember, desperate times net desperate measures.
Now it's begging.
And I'm going to say this. How many times have we done things out of survival? How many times have we done things out of desperation that we were not thinking clearly when it happened? And that's how we still remain in these holes. That's why I said one thing that my mother, Olinda, used to get on me all the time about. Did you really think that through? You keep saying you thought, but this is what you get for thinking. Was it a quick think, or did you literally sit down and take the time to really think this through?
I need FB Tie to find out from us whether or not, and I know you said you think, so you covered all of our bases. You're not sure, but you think. We need to find that out, because I almost feel like, no, I don't feel. Anybody in this age group and over, 50 and over, you don't volunteer to be the president of a university. You volunteer to be the president of your HOA. You volunteer to be the president of your Greek letter affiliation, your whatever. There's a lot of things you can volunteer for. Okay. Yeah. But that means to me, what all I heard was, I'm giving this fire that's burning in front of me. Here we go. That's like showing up to the fires in LA with one water hose.
No.
It ain't gonna work. That's part-time work. I'm gonna come to this meeting once a week. I'm coming to this meeting once a month. And I'm gonna show up to 2 committee meetings once a month. That's what that says to me. I could be wrong.
And this is the thing too. I joined my alumni association locally. I joined my alumni association nationally so that I could have a voice. There's not one of those meetings that I don't sit in and attend on and really listen to what's going on. And then I do exercise my right as a member, because I will stand up and say, did you bring that decision through? And y'all know I'm not the best with Robert's rules and all of that, but I'm pretty good with what's right and wrong. And so you made all of these appointments and you ain't consult us first.
Right.
I'm really curious to know, in the week and a half between new 1 and new 2 transitioning, because you know there was no transitioning because 1 knew, he said no. Who else did you shop this man in front of? There's other stakeholders here.
Mm-hmm.
There are other stakeholders here. So now you're popping up in front of the alumni. We might know you because you were an alumni, but we had no, as a decision-making body, we had no clue you were coming in. Or if they was it just from the top to top? Did us little itty-bitty individual alumni chapter members have a say in all of this? Because this is the thing about these organizations that we're in. You know, different people have different perspectives. We have different area of expertise, but we're also checks and balances for each other. Did y'all notice that?
And I think that is where we can end it right there. I know we could probably go on and on and on about this, but I think we're gonna have FB Ty come back and give us some more details. But you know, we started the year off like this, guys, but we have a lot to come back with. We have a lot of great guests that are coming down the pipeline. The Real will be taking on some new spaces and some new opportunities to be able to bring to you the real reason why we're here doing what we're doing. So we look forward to much more. FB Ty, thank you for being our intro. I think we're going to figure out how we can have the scoop. We're going to figure out the scoop, like the whole breakdown, the real breakdown of what's going on in our HBCU world.
Have one of those magnifying glasses.
Right.
Inspector hat on.
Right. But until then, we have your crew over here at the Real University, welcoming you into the new year and looking forward to having our conversations with you on a weekly basis. Talk to you later.
Merry New Year, everybody.
Merry New Year. There we go.
2025. We in this thing.
The 2025.